is willing to overcome adversity. The more that I've gotten to know her, like I respected her right away from a business perspective. I go, she's one of them that's going to make it. And I don't often say that because there's a lot of what, Mylette talked about this in a recent podcast, there's a lot of what we call false starts. Somebody gets off to a good start and then sort of sags back, right? So I don't oftentimes pick winners too early. I'm very reluctant to do that because I've seen too many false starts. It's usually, here's where I have confidence. Somebody, they get up, they do something. It may not be a fast start. They may be here 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, and then do something significant and they start really going after it. And then what I always look for is, once they've had success here and they get punched in the mouth hard, they get dropped to the floor hard, like adversity really hits them in some area of their life, whether it's in their business, their best leg quits on them, they have huge chargebacks, they go through a health thing, a thing with family, like anything, they get pounded down and all of a sudden, do they rise back up from that? And I've seen so many people that really like had a lot of success and were really going places, they're a rising star and they get punched hard and we never hear from them again. And then I see others that come back stronger than ever. And as I've gotten to know Leah personally over time, as much as I admire like her perspective on business, how hard she works at it, what she's achieved in business, as I've gotten to know her more as a person outside of the business, there's just a huge spot in my heart for who she is, what's important to her, who's important to her, and the way she goes about fighting in her own life for the things that are most important to her. She's just a wonderful person, and I really believe that as much as I admire her and respect her from a leadership perspective and a work ethic perspective, I think she's a better person than she is a business person, and that's saying an awful lot about her. So I've asked her to come out today. She's done like 20 plus recruits in her base shop, in her team, on multiple occasions. She's got a real recruiter's mindset. She's got a real builder's mindset. She knows what it takes to play big numbers, make lots of calls, lots of prospecting, and consistently just be a guest inviter who's consistently looking to grow her practice. So I'm delighted that she fought through hours of rain to be with us here today. Would you please help me give her a ruckus Chino welcome?
And when my 11-year-old Noam was 2.5, he was diagnosed with autism. So that was my first punch, right? Like Christopher was talking about when you get punched in the face. And I am because to me, those punches, when the crap happens, that's what defines us, right? That's when when the situation becomes make it or break it, like for real, sink or swim. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, maybe it's just because I'm stubborn. Maybe God was trying to tell me some things before I got punched, but I didn't hear him. And for me, the stubborn person that I am, I needed a punch that big to wake myself up, right? So if you are going through something in your life right now that is challenging or adverse, I encourage you to embrace it and be grateful for it, because within that is actually contained probably the biggest blessing or the biggest opportunity of your life, and who you're actually supposed to become, the person you're meant to be, right? Like when Ed Milet always talks about, you know, at the end of the day, when you're standing before God, how big is that gap between the person you were and the ultimate potential that you could have become? And I believe that it is in those moments of those greatest adversity that it gives you all of the opportunity to become that end result person, right? So for me, it was his diagnosis, and he's pretty severely affected on the spectrum. I don't know if any of you guys know anyone with autism, and it's a pretty broad spectrum. But just to give you guys like an idea, my son's 11 now. He's still nonverbal, so he doesn't speak. He's in diapers. He's very aggressive. So he needs full-time care. And yeah, so when he was diagnosed, I was actually kind of lost, actually. Most of my life I was kind of lost. I was always very spiritually inclined. I was always a seeker. I always was looking for answers, very existential. But I hadn't really ever found them. And then when I got this punch, I was like, okay, what do you want from me? Like, what's happening now? So I ended up going into this whole rabbit hole of research, like mom, like freaking out, trying to figure out what to do here. So I would be up till 2, 3 in the morning every single night on Yahoo groups. I don't even know if those are still around, but at the time, Yahoo groups, it was all the moms all around the world, messaging, forums, doctors, I mean, a lot of different stuff. And I really discovered this whole world that I'd never known about of alternative health and basically our medical establishment. I'm not going to go into that one, just to spare you guys now, but that's a whole world, and I was really fascinated by it, and I was like, wow, there's so much hope, there's so much that can be done that people don't know about. And so I ended up deciding to go back to school, and I got a certification to become a holistic health and wellness coach. And I was really excited about actually helping the moms of children with autism reclaim their own health, their own happiness, just balance. Because what I found, whether you have a child with autism or you're a caregiver in general for anybody, whether it's a senior or it's a child, usually your own self-care is like majorly neglected. And unfortunately what happens is then the child or the person you're caring for gets the short end of the stick, because your tank is depleted, you've got nothing to offer anybody, right? So I was like, I'm going to focus on the moms, because if the moms take care of themselves, then the kids are going to get better. So that was sort of my whole premise, and I did some public speaking on it. I co-founded a nonprofit with 20 other parents. We co-authored a couple books. I was speaking at national autism conferences specifically on this subject of kind of the mother-child relationship. So I was like, I figured it out. Cool, thank you, God. Like, I found my calling, I found my purpose, I found my passion, and it was so fulfilling. Like, when I would coach these moms, I felt so in my element. I felt like I was providing value. I was helping people. I felt so, actually, I was like, how are they paying me to do this? Like, I feel better at the end of the session than when I started it, right? Like, it was very therapeutic for me, and I was like, isn't that the point of what we're here to do, is to make money while doing something we love and give value doing it, right? So yes. I was happy, but there's always a but, right? The but was, as I was coaching these moms, I was talking to them about a lot of spiritual principles, and one of those things was abundance, right? Because a lot of them were financially super, super strapped. And that's through paying a ton of money for therapy. Some of them refinance their homes, take out second mortgages just to pay for therapies. They're a really strapped community. And so I would be like, for this hour together, I would be like so focused and giving all that I could, and I would be pouring into them and giving them tools, and then the session was over. And then they went back to their life, and they didn't have any actual tools or vehicles other than my inspiration that might have worn off after a few minutes, right? And I also went back to my life where I was in my 1-bedroom apartment in the not most lovely area of Los Angeles as a single mom, only breadwinner with this kid I have to take care of, and I was not maximizing my abundance either. So I started to feel like even a little bit fraudulent, because as I was telling these parents, I was like, you know, abundance is your birthright, and we're designed to thrive, and you know, and like there's an infinite supply of resources to you, and then here I was like not living that. So I felt that there was kind of like a incongruency within me. And also, it was becoming more and more real that my son's needs were ever increasing, and that there was a lot I wanted to do for him, but I couldn't afford it, right? Like there was, you know, there's a lot of out of pocket stuff that's available, that's cutting edge, it's incredible. Doctors around the world doing amazing things, but it's like not covered by insurance for sure. Yeah. So I just sort of like prayed on it. I just set out this intention to the universe, to God. I'm very, very spiritual. And I was like, I really want to access more resources, more abundance, so that I can provide for my son, I can set a positive example for my community. And within literally a week, and I'm sure if you've been around here long enough, you guys know that literally everyone who walks through these doors and everyone you've ever recruited has some kind of story like this, where they prayed, and probably all of you, right? Like they asked, they prayed, whatever, and within like a few days, someone from WFG calls them. Have you raised your hand if you or someone you recruited had a similar experience? Okay, that's a handful of people. For me, it's like everyone I recruit. Just the girl yesterday I recruited, she was like, I lit a candle and I was praying, and then I met you, and I was like, what day did you light the candle? We looked on her calendar. Then we looked at our original text. It was 8 days after she lit the candle. Anyway, I see that all the time because this is a very spiritual business. Yes. So within a week of making that ask, one of the moms in my younger son's preschool reached out to me, and she said, I can't promise you anything, but I may have an opportunity for you in finance. By the way, this was over email, and I never even met this mom. Okay, so I'm like, finance? Like, me? Like, it did not seem exciting. Let's just put it that way. But then I was like, wait a minute, I just asked for money. Like, how could I say no to finance in Beverly Hills? Like, could we get any more obvious than that? so I was like, okay, I'll go in, I'll be open-minded, whatever. So I go in the office, the first person I meet is Batsheva. I don't know if any of you guys know Batsheva, but literally I had no idea what this was. I was just enamored and charmed by her bubbly, like, charisma, and I was like, I don't really have anything to lose. I like this woman. I'm pretty broke right now. Okay, what the heck? I paid my $100. I did my AMA, and really, literally had no idea what this was about. But then the next morning, I went in for full-time with Dan, and I saw Dan. Any of you guys probably all know who Dan is at this point. So Dan was standing at the front of the room, and I was literally on the edge of my seat the entire training. I was like, who is this guy? Like, every word he said, I was hanging on every word. I was like, he had no idea I existed. And I was like, I am going to get that guy to mentor me, because anything that he says I know is going to work, right? So I basically just made it a point from that day forward, I need to work my butt off here so I get recognized by him, so I have access to that association, because I never had the opportunity to be mentored by someone with such incredible leadership. And you guys are so lucky in here that you have so many incredible leaders. Like, I'm looking around leaders, Christopher, Dean, like, you know, Stephen, Carol, you guys have like the cream of the crop in here. So hopefully you're also taking advantage of that. So then I kind of, once I realized what this was all about, I was like, oh my God, this is the thing that I had been praying for all along. I'm sitting on a pot of gold. And what was most exciting to me about it was, besides helping my own family and my son, which this business has changed our lives. You know, we've been to Panama now twice in the last year to get stem cells. That trip alone is about 20 grand, including airfare, you know, hotels, and the actual treatment, right? And that's just the beginning. I mean, there's so much more we're going to do, right? So without this business, there's no way to be able to do things like that. And then also what I can offer now my community, right? So I'm talking to the autism community about special needs planning, the opportunity. They need the opportunity more than anybody. And so now I'm still able to coach people, but I'm not just ending the conversation with, have a nice day, I can give them a real tangible vehicle that could actually transform their lives. And so I hope you guys really, really cherish like how golden this is, because the fact that you are carrying this around with you, you have the ability to literally gift someone the opportunity that could change their lives forever. That's a privilege. Like, that's stewardship, right? Like, if talking about being a steward, you have this golden opportunity to literally gift someone something that will change their lives forever and the legacy of their families. And so what I'm going to, and how that ties into what I'm going to talk about today is recruiting, because I think a lot of us, get hung up on recruiting because we get in our own head and we're like, oh, what if they're not interested or they're not going to, but you're in your head and you're thinking about yourself. When you're thinking about recruiting, you need to think about what you're doing for the person, what you can offer them. Like, you're literally Santa Claus. Like, you're Santa Claus walking around offering the best present you could give anybody. And so when you see it that way, it's like selfish not to recruit. Literally, it is. You're holding something in to yourself that you could be giving people that could change their lives forever. So I'm going to go into my PowerPoint now. That really recruiting is the all-time thing, right? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of different steps to our business, but recruiting is the core of it all, and it's actually the genius of the system that makes everything else work. So is there a clicker or you're just swiping? Okay, cool. So you can go to the first one. Okay, so Dan says this all the time. The number one rule in business is to stay in business, right? So if your goal is to stay in business, wouldn't it be good to know what your inventory is? Right? Because I think a lot of times we get confused and we think our inventory is apps. Is our inventory apps? No. What is our inventory? People. Thank you, right? So our inventory is people and new agents. So there's so many different ways that agents lead to cash flow, right? So the first way, and we basically heard them all this morning during recognition, the first way is internal consumption, right? So every single person that you recruit is going to become a client. So do you need to be making calls looking for clients? No, right? Because if you're building a team the way you're supposed to be building a team and you're recruiting, you're going to, as a byproduct of doing that, get business. It's so easy. It's already simplified for you. You're making your life harder when you're making calls to find clients. That's what the traditional industry does. That's why they have to make cold calls all day. We don't have to do that because built in our system is this incredible genius pipeline that takes all of that pain and suffering out of the equation. I don't wish cold calling on my worst enemy, right? So that's one way we have cash flow, right? Then two is through field training, right? So what recruits do is now they're opening up new warm markets, right? So even let's say you're lucky and you're able to get a result from that cold call, and you're able to get in front of that prospect. Now you have to you're like climbing up streams. You have to create the rapport. You have from scratch. They don't know you. Versus you're in the field with someone who already has credibility with them, who has trust with them, who can literally introduce you as the expert and take all of the guesswork out of it, literally transfer their credibility to you, and all you have to do is then sit there and open your mouth, and even if you screw up your presentation, you're still going to get a result because of that relationship that already exists. Why would you squander that and go make a cold call and get a cold prospect where you're having to prove your worth and who you are and all your accolades and all of that, and maybe close and maybe not? It's making your life so much harder for yourself, right? So, and not only that, let's think about the volume here, right? When you recruit one new person, not only do you get their character references, which is 10 warm leads, you're also getting their top 25, right? So with every new recruit you bring on, you should be getting at least 35 warm phone numbers. I remember still in my first year in business, I was with Dan at the Grand Event Room because he holds a lot of his meetings there, and sometimes he invites us to come and sort of listen. It was after an appointment, he had one of his buddies come in who actually was one of like the senior wealth managers for Merrill Lynch. And this guy, super, super successful guy, traditional industry, but he came from a lot of money, so You know, just a totally different background. And he was talking about how in his early days in Merrill Lynch, they would make like 600 cold calls a day. And to do that, they might close, you know, like 3 to 5 people from 600 cold calls. And Dan was like, you will not believe what I'm about to tell you. And the guy's like, what? He's like, my guys have lists of warm leads, and they don't even pick up the phone. And the guy was like, what? Are you crazy? You're kidding me. I can't even believe that. Right? So think about it. How many top 25s do you have right now in your briefcase or on your computer or wherever you store them that are sitting there that you know you have not called them? And think about the traditional industry, what they have to do to get a result. Yeah. So if you're running this as a business and this is your full-time occupation, don't you think that at bare minimum you could make 25 warm phone calls? Yes. Okay. Perfect. And then that opens up all these warm markets where you just literally, it's like, it's so easy for you, right? So you can't not get results. You can't not win when it's set up so perfectly. Okay, next, duplication. And this, so we said 1 is produces cash flow, 2 produces cash flow, but 3, as Dan says, produces cash flow, right? So duplication, recruits become outlets and outlet openers. Right, and that's the big money. I mean, I don't know about you guys. Maybe you're here to be a financial advisor. I'm not. I'm here to build a massive distribution system. Okay, so for me, number 3 is my focus. Right, I'm looking to build outlets and outlet openers. So what is an outlet? Who knows what's an outlet? Yes.
Well, senior marketing director.
Not necessarily.
Or someone who can go out and produce an independent result.
Yes. Exactly. And an outlet opener?
Someone who can train somebody to be an independent result getter.
Beautiful. Love it. So you don't even need to be a senior marketing director to get a result. You just have to be effective, right? So your goal should be to find people who can get results and close and do business, and then even better, find leaders who can then develop people to do the same thing. And then once you found leaders who can develop leaders, now you're living Christopher's life, and life is good, right? So that should be your goal, and that's where you're bringing in cash. Whoa. Okay, cool. So next, right? So why are you still chasing clients, right? So we kind of already covered this, but that's the genius of our whole system, is that recruiting is the lifeblood of the system. With no inventory, it literally stops. So if your calendar this week is empty, what should you be doing? You should be getting new inventory, right? Filling your pipeline with new people. Okay, so we can keep going. All right, so this is not a trick question. Do you want the golden egg?
Yes.
Yes. Do you? Are you sure? Sure. Okay, let's keep going. Or do you want the chicken or the goose that lays all the golden eggs, right? Right? So imagine if you could get an app, that's cool. I mean, commissions are fun. I love getting direct deposit. I love it. Trust me, I love getting money. I love when I get that little text, WFG 303, whatever it says. You've just earned, that's great. It's cool. But you know what? After 5 minutes later, that money's gone. It's done. It's a one-time sale. It's a transaction. I'm not a product peddler. I'm not here to sell for the rest of my life. That's a one-time thing, and then it's over, right? I would much rather find me one of those, right, who can build me an office like this so that then I can go chill. Wouldn't you guys all agree that's why we're here? Yes. So when you're picking up the phone, you want to think about, am I calling to get the goose or am I calling to get the egg? Right? If you're calling to get the egg, then you need to reprioritize your focus because you're here to build a business. You're not here to be self-employed. You're not here to make a sale. You're here to build a business, run a system that literally will work for you whether you work or not. Like Dan, this year, he's been traveling all over the world. He is so young, and he gets to literally do whatever he wants, no whether he works or not, whether he shows up to the office or not. he is going to get that consistent check into his bank account every single month, right? So what's putting your head down for 5 to 10 years, really, really hard and focused work to be able to have that forever? To me, that's a no-brainer, right? Okay, cool. So if your business is out of inventory, what would be the most important activity you could possibly do?
Prospecting.
I'm going to let you guys keep shouting out. I heard 2 prospects.
Phone calls.
Phone calls. More inventory, exactly. Okay, so my answer, prospect, right? So, and this, as we know from the business format system, this can come in a whole bunch of different ways. So what are the different ways we can prospect? Face-to-face, so cold prospecting, right, which is actually one of my favorite. Friendship farming, right? So getting well, that is cold prospecting, but also turning strangers into friends, right? From your natural warm market already, and through referrals, friendship borrowing, right? So we have it already all in the BFS. There's so many, and now today there's even more creative ways to prospect. I know you guys are already ahead of that curve. I mean, there's a lot of resources online. There's resume websites which are cold, but it is a way to prospect. Totally. I mean, social media. I mean, I have agents now who's starting their own YouTube channel where they're doing educational videos to get followers. Instagram, Facebook, I mean, literally, the world is at your fingertips, literally at your fingertips on your mobile device. I mean, there's a way to connect with people all around the world at any given moment now. All you have to do is have that focus. Okay, I need to fill my pipeline. I don't have inventory, so I need to spend the majority of my time focused on getting new inventory. Okay, cool. So prospect, right? So let's just think about it, because I talk about this to my team a lot, because this is a mistake that I made earlier on in the business, because there's a lot of steps. There's steps 1 through 6 that you can get kind of confused, you can get kind of lost. Even sometimes I think the phone is a little bit premature, right? Because first you've got to get the inventory. Because if you don't have the inventory, you don't have anyone to call on the phone, right? If you don't have anyone to do a presentation to. So step 2, you can't do step 2 without prospecting. You can't do step 3 without prospecting. You can't follow up with anyone. You can't recruit anyone. You can't sell to anyone. You can't develop or train anybody. You certainly can't duplicate yourself if you don't have raw material. So and no matter how long you've been in this business, no matter how many people you've recruited, no matter how excited or jaded or whatever emotion it is that you feel, what's happened in the past is over. That's no longer relevant. So put yourself in the position of that training associate that's here at day 1 and like, okay, am I at EVC yet? No. Okay, so I need to get to work, right? Like I need to go to square one, start from the very first step and go back to the basics so I can fill my pipeline. And that's something that you need to be doing literally all the time. Literally all the time. You're never too cool for school. You haven't arrived yet, right? So if you're not there where literally you're living your ideal life and you have passive income coming in, you need to be working. And you need to be working the majority of your energy here so that you have stuff to do after that. Then let it get messy. The activity is going to follow. It's the next logical step. So when you have the people, then you have confirmed guests, then you have AMAs that lead to FNAs, that lead to field training, that lead to the whole beautiful, wonderful system that we have designed for us. Cool?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, and this, I remember this quote. So Jay said this, probably one of the very first aerial wines I ever heard. He said, and he's doing pretty well in business, so he's somebody I look up to a lot. And he said, before I had a team, I spent 90% of my day prospecting. He literally would go to shopping plazas, and he would not let himself leave till he got 20 phone numbers. 20 phone numbers is not too aggressive. 20 phone numbers is absolutely appropriate. Like, that's the kind of quantity and raw material you need to have. Like, those of you who are getting 1 number, 2 numbers, whatever a day, that's like, are you trying to take 50 years to do this? Right? Like, you really, really need to compress your activity and collapse time frames. And honestly, if you're not on appointments, what are you doing anyway? Right? And I love prospecting. And any of you guys, so okay, be honest. How many of you raise your hand if you really are still a little bit intimidated to talk to a stranger? And it's totally cool. Okay, I feel like there's more of you that aren't being honest, but that was like half the room. Okay, cool. That's totally perfect. So I wanna reframe it for you a little bit. So when I was new in business, it was actually probably like 3-4 months in. I was just sort of like in sponge mode for the first 3 months. I was not a fast starter at all. I would just kind of like sit there and absorb information for a while. And after about 3-4 months of hearing Dan train, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk to people. Like it just, the light bulb went on, I realized it. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this unless I talk to people. And I know I seem really comfortable right now, and I am because I've been doing this now for a little bit. But at the time, I was terrified. Like, I'm not actually a natural extrovert. Like, in my very beginning Mozones, I was totally a wallflower. I was so socially awkward. I hated Mozone. And so for me to have to go out of my comfort zone to talk to strangers, it was so incredibly awkward. But I'll tell you, we all have different human needs, and we all have different reasons that we're here. And if you're not familiar with the human needs, I suggest you guys research a little bit about the 6 human needs. My number one human need that I've identified is growth, right? So for me, if I'm in an environment where I'm not growing, then I feel so stagnant, I feel like I'm done. And so I realized, I came to this crossroads and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk to people, and I really don't want to talk to people, and it's really uncomfortable. But I know that I'm literally wasting my time coming to these meetings if I don't get over this. Okay, I'm gonna have to get over this. Okay, and for me, I really looked at it as, forget WFG. This isn't even about WFG anymore. This was about me. This was about my personal growth. This was about me not being afraid. Like, I am not the type of person that's comfortable to live my life avoiding something because of fear. I don't know about you guys, but that's not acceptable. Like, we're here to grow and develop as people. So if something's scary, that's the very reason you have to do it. Like, you literally, for you, forget this. Forget WFG. For you, do you want to live your life in fear?
Right.
No, right? So I decided, okay, I'm going to have to get outside my comfort zone. And that's actually where all the growth is. Everything you want, that Jack Canfield said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Right? So the very thing that you're most afraid of is the thing you have to do the most, and you have to do it in the largest quantity. And like Steve Siebold says, you have to actually like desensitize yourself. This is what they do in the military, right? Like, to get over all sorts of the different challenges they have to systematically desensitize themselves by repeated and fast exposure to the stimulus, right? So if you're like, okay, I'm scared of prospecting, so I'm going to go get a number today, and then I'm going to wait a week, and I'm going to get another number, and then I'm going to wait 2 weeks and get 2 more numbers. You're not desensitizing yourself. You're actually traumatizing yourself, right? Because you might get a good result, you might not, and now you're going to live with that for a whole week, and the apprehension of, oh my God, does this work? Does this not work? Can I do this? And you're in your head for a whole week, and meanwhile, you're not evolving, right? So I was like, okay, I need to get aggressive with this thing that I'm scared of. So I would go to the gym, and I would look for the buffest, most intimidating guy to talk to. Right? And I remember my heart was like pounding outside my chest. I could barely speak. Like, my teeth would be like chattering. I was so scared. And I was like, that's why you have to do it, Landon. That's why you have to do it. That's why you have to do it. And I would just go up to them. And sometimes they would be like, you're being weird, because I probably was, right, and awkward. And sometimes they'd be like, yeah, cool. And they were probably just being really nice. And I was awkward, but you know what, because I forced myself to do it over and over and over again in a short amount of time, and that's the most important thing, short amount of time to do it a lot, I realized, okay, this isn't so bad. Okay, the worst case, really, they're just telling me no thank you. Like, nobody's told me, like, screw you, get out of my face. Like, nobody's, like, spit at me. Like, you know, it's really not that bad. Rejection isn't, like, the end of the world. I can handle this. Okay. Then, you know what, guys? Now prospecting is literally my most favorite activity. Literally, I'm like, okay, well, I could be in the office and make calls, or I could go to the mall and talk to people. I'm going to go to the mall, right? Because it's just fun. I mean, it's fun once you get over the initial fear, and then you feel you have a swagger about you. And when you walk, you're like, I'm not afraid of anything, and I don't care if you tell me no. And then you get more and more effective because they can feel that you really don't care. And then you have more confidence, and you have more self-esteem. I mean, besides the money and the recognition and the contests and the trips and all the amazing things this company offers, I would argue the best thing this company offers is a personal development. This is a personal development workshop. And then you get paid for growing. How freaking awesome is that? I went to Tony Robbins. I had to pay him to go. That was a lot of money. And I would argue this business, that was my biggest takeaway actually from Tony Robbins, is that I already was doing it all here. Right. The business already gives it to us.
So yeah, that's the $10,000 one, not the one they're talking about right now.
Yeah, I did Life and Wealth Mastery. I went to Fiji and the whole thing. And you know what's funny? I wanted to be like, what's Tony Robbins teaching his wealthy clients? It's the freaking F&A. It's literally the same thing. I was dying the whole time. I did not learn one new thing. And I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying, I was like, we literally have it. We have it here. We have it and we get to go apply it. That's the even better part. Those people go and they get jacked up and they jump on the rebounders in the back of the room and then they go home and then they go back to their lives. We have the vehicle. We have the actual, tangible, living, breathing workshop right here. And the best way, it's like the best way to measure your personal growth because your results, your numbers, the leaders bulletin, that's your mirror, right? So if you got zeros, don't beat yourself up. Just be like, okay, that's where I'm at. I've got to grow. Where do I have to grow so that I have some better numbers, that I'm getting more results? The results is the byproduct of you growing, right? So where was I? I went on a tangent. But anyway, prospecting, yes. So that's the point. It's like put yourself in those uncomfortable positions initially and it will just get easier. It'll get easier and you'll probably end up falling in love with it. And you should shoot for big numbers. Like literally, we are in a game of volume. This is quantity to get the quality. So if you're getting just a handful of numbers a day, you really are prolonging this so long. Like you're spending the time here anyway. Just do the work now because then you get to party later. That's the whole point, right? And then the one more thing I want to add to that, and this has probably been my biggest breakthrough of this year so far since Wealth Bowl. I actually was really having this breakthrough at Wealth Bowl, which is why big events are so important. Everybody registered for Fast Start School? Yeah. Yes, good. Okay, so basically you have to have fun. Like you have to have fun because you're going to be here. You're going to be putting in the time, and if you're miserable while you're doing it, you're missing out on the whole point. And so, like, one of the things I struggled with in the past is I've been always a very, like, destination-oriented person, like, hitting goals. Like, that's why, really, honestly, I took my S&D promotion right when I hit it. Probably against the advice of a lot of people, and I had to learn that lesson for myself. But, you know, because I always was focused on getting the result, the goal, hitting the goal, and that's not actually the goal. The goal is the joy, the goal is the fun, the goal is the happiness in the process of who you're becoming and this time you're spending here. You could be spending your time doing a whole bunch of other things that won't get you as far as this, so you've made the wise decision to be here, but now enjoy it. Like, just have fun. You have to have fun, and if you're out prospecting and you're having fun while you're prospecting, your energy is magnetic. You are just like a beaming light beam of charisma. People want what you got because they can see your enjoy while they're all robots and they're all walking, you know, in their hamster wheel 9-to-5 miserable existence, right? So then they see someone like you walking down the street all fired up and happy. They're like, what Kool-Aid is that? I want some, right? You know, so you have to really embrace the fun, and if you're in that monotony is good with activity, but in your mind it shouldn't be. In your mind you should be trying to think like the training associate, try to think like that awe-inspired child, like childlike innocence, like looking at everything like it's the first time it's ever happened, from excitement, from eagerness, from joy. Because that's what makes this whole thing feel so worthwhile. And you'll get where you want to go so much faster if you're having fun. That's really my biggest breakthrough. So, prospect. Cool. So next, right, so without prospects, you really just have no business, bottom line. Like, you don't. So you might be making cold calls, and I'm not saying they don't work, because I know a lot of people have gotten results from cold calls, so I don't want to say don't cold call. Like Christopher said, listen to your SMD. But at the end of the day, you're probably making your life a lot harder and you're elongating the process. If you're just hitting the phones and making cold calls all day, you're probably just you're almost distracting yourself from the real work, which is getting the good quality prospects. And when you have that inventory, the rest flows. It takes off. It really does. So even if you have holes in your schedule now, that's fine. Invest the majority of your time here. Then you'll have the people to call, and then before you know it, you'll have so many appointments you can't even find the time to prospect. That's the beauty. Okay? Okay, cool. Right. So this, and for me, like Christopher asked me to talk about recruiting, and I hope I'm not making him mad that I'm talking so much about prospecting, because I feel that prospecting is such a huge part of recruiting. And what I always tell my team, because sometimes I have agents who have other obligations and they have a lot of responsibilities and they can't juggle all that's required to really run the system. And I say the one non-leverageable skill set is prospecting.
Oh.
Literally everything else you can leverage out. You can make money in this business on matchups all day, right? Actually, like, I'm jealous. I have a guy on my team, that's all he does. He prospects, he sends me numbers. I was like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could send my upline all my prospects and just do that all day and have someone else run the system for me. But guess what? You guys have amazing uplines here who will help you. Yes. So if you're really in that situation, and I'm not saying don't learn the other steps, you should become independent. You should know how to run the system. You should see yourself as the leader of leaders, right? But if you have temporary circumstances that are preventing you from going all in right now, that is the one thing you just cannot negotiate on. You have to do that one thing, because you prospect and you pick up the phone. Now you have guests here, right? And that automatically, once you have a guest here, they're being filtered from the second the BPM is over. Right? They're going right into kit of information, they're going right into interview, they're going right into AMA, and it's just happening for you, right? Like, you can't get it wrong once you've just got them in the room, right? So, and then you want to really run the system the way it's designed, where you're running a system where prospecting never stops, calls never stop, appointments never stop, recruiting never stops, and of course, the building never stops, and that's where it gets so super fun. Okay. Oh yeah. I have a little bit of a reputation in our office plaza. You guys can't read the fine print, but I wrote, "This woman has been seen to be with big vision and not afraid of rejection. She can be spotted at local shopping malls, grocery stores, networking groups, and even right next to you in your bathroom stall." Oh, dang. "If you are within 3 feet of her, she will approach you and offer you an opportunity. Naysayers, skeptics, and negative people, beware. She will try to sell you your dreams and believe in you even if you don't believe in yourself."
That's cool.
Right? And really, that's so true. I know that I'm making a joke, but it's true. I prospected a guy like a week ago at Starbucks, and I texted him, I called him and I texted him. He's like, I'm not interested. I was like, can you say you're not interested in something you know nothing about? He's like, oh, well, I talked to so-and-so and so-and-so at the gym, and they told me about it. I was like, I literally didn't know who those people were, but obviously I prospected them because they knew me and they knew the business. I was like, well, I don't know who they are, so obviously you've got the wrong idea. Let's meet. But literally, do people think of you that way? Like, are you breathing this? Are you really breathing this? Like, you need to be breathing this everywhere you go. Like Ed Milet talks about in Max Out and on all his podcasts, your reticular activating system. Your RAS system needs to be like a heat-seeking missile. Who is looking for me? Who is looking for me? Who's hungry? Right? And when I go to the mall or when I walk around, I'm like, who is praying to God right now to change their life? That is what I say, because that's who I was when I was prospecting. And there is no shortage of people praying for that right now. There's no shortage. So think of yourself like, who's praying for me? I'm the bearer of gifts. I'm just here to answer their prayers. I'm the steward. That's what you're doing. You're in your head worrying about, are they going to reject you? Take yourself out of the equation. You're a channel. You're just offering the vehicle. Right? So you want to have that 3 feet rule mentality. And I want to challenge you guys, when you're in the elevator leaving this place today, or when you're anywhere and you get that ding feeling, I should talk to them, and then your mind says, no, don't do it. You need to ignore that and listen to that. That's my challenge to you, is to start paying attention to your inner guidance, to your gut, because your gut knows the right ones. When you get that tingle, They are meant to be talked to. When I remember after convention, I was listening to an interview from a long time ago from Ed Milet and Swan Wynn. If you guys haven't listened to it, you should totally look it up. I think it's on YouTube. And Swan Wynn, half the company Swan Wynn, told the story that literally he was walking in the entryway of his apartment building and a woman prospected him. Could you imagine if you were that woman and you didn't open your mouth? That would be half our company. Oh my God. So now I've changed my entire view on prospecting. When I'm walking and I get that feeling and then the voice comes in, I'm like, that's Swan Lynn, dude. You gotta get out of your own way. Go talk to that person. And that's the gravity. Dan always says you are one recruit away from an explosion. That's all it takes. You don't know who that person is going to be, and if you get in your own way, you could be missing out on that person. And somebody recruited Swan Wynn, and somebody recruited Dan, and someone recruited Ed. Okay? Right? So those people are out there. Are you going to open your mouth? That's the real question. So that 3 feet rule is no joke. There's no exceptions. Okay? Keep a tracking system for your prospects. I would track everything, and we'll get to that on the next page, but for me, I personally like Google Sheets. I use it for everything because I can share it with my team, and I can put like my last contacts, and if anything, the results came, I can put all the comments. I really love that system, but do the system that works for you so that people don't fall through the cracks, because if you're getting 20 numbers a day like you should really literally be doing, however you do it, whether you're on the streets or you're on social media, you should be shooting for 20 a day, then that gets messy really fast. So you need to organize that information. Follow up fast within 24 hours, right? So like that's one of the affirmations that Dan's brainwashed me with, which I'm grateful for. Like I follow up fast within 24 hours. I follow up fast within 24 hours, always. You don't want to miss out on that opportunity. You want to keep the momentum going all the time, every step of the system, not just prospecting. Right, and we already talked about the explosion. Cool. Okay. Right. So I was thinking, Mark Zuckerberg was the biggest mobile inviter, right? Like, what a great idea that he basically got us all in one place. Think that big. How could you literally tap into every single network that exists? So are you inviting everyone? And use Facebook too, right? So get obsessed with invitations. So this is part of the living, breathing thing. Like, being a business owner, you could be, okay, actually, let me pause. Raise your hand if you're part-time. Okay. You probably really are. But you are allowed. No, you're not. Raise your hand if you're full-time. Okay. Raise your hand if you're all the time. So that was a little bit of a trick question, right? So that's what this is, right? Being a business owner, your business is 24/7, literally. Like, you need to be breathing it all of the time. So everywhere you go, everything you do, who am I talking to, who am I inviting? Who am I talking to, who am I inviting? It's got to be the number one thought on your mind, right? Okay, also, captain system. Captain system is so huge. So, do you need to be an SMD to be a captain?
No.
Okay, good. What do you need to be a captain?
10 confirmed.
10 confirmed. Right. There is no reason not every single person in this room should be a captain. Because if you're getting the raw material that we talked about at the volume that you needed, then you should have no problem getting 10 confirmations per BPM. And then think about what that will do to your schedule, just from developing that one simple habit. If you become consistent with becoming a captain, you'll have 3 people show to every single BPM. You'll have 1 AMA every single BPM. Automatically, you're almost at BBC, right? Because we have 8 BPMs a month. So you get 1 direct per BPM, and then every single one of those directs is going to have their top 35 that we just talked about. You're going to be in the field. Before you know it, you will be so booked, you won't have time to even do this. And that's when you need to schedule it. That's when you need to schedule prospecting and phone calls in your schedule no matter what, even when you're busy, because you never want to forget, you never want to get so arrogant to forget how you got that activity in the first place. And that's something a lot of people do, is they get activity and they're like, oh, now I'm Mr. Big Shot, and you forgot that the reason you got that activity was because you did the daily disciplines and you did the work, right? So you want to make that a non-negotiable commitment to yourself every single morning, 9 to 11, whatever your brain time is, that is your date with you and your phone, and nobody can take that away from you, right? And all of your appointments can work around that, because that's how you stay continuously having that activity every single week. Cool. Okay, so tracking, right? So I think I'm kind of a tracking nut, and Christopher was totally right in the way that he introduced me, because I'm actually not the most charismatic, I'm not the best closer, I'm not really that skilled, honestly. I'm really not. What I'm good at is the system. What I'm good at is work. What I'm good at is outworking everyone else around me. I love getting to the office first, and I love leaving last, and I love being like, nobody else is here but me, and this is why I deserve to win, right? I don't even need to be the best on the phone. Probably a majority of you are better in the field than me. Like, I guarantee it by all the stuff you've got going on. But the reason that I will win is because I have these daily disciplines consistent no matter what. And a lot of that comes back to tracking, because you need to track everything. So you need to track your prospects closely. You also need to track your captain's list, and that goes for after BPM too. This is a big one. People lose so many people from that. You might be tracking your captain's list, confirming people, but what about the next day when all the people didn't show? You just forget about them? So many people do. That's when you need to go back to the captain's list the next morning in green time and say, who didn't call? Hey, I saw you weren't there last night. Is everything okay? You know, we had a seat saved for you. We were so excited to see you. Just wanted to check and make sure everything's okay. Right? You know how many people I brought back in from that call? Oh my God, I'm so sorry my daughter was sick. Oh my God, I'm so sorry I got called into work. I wasn't able to be. Do you have another one? Could I please come back? Right? Like, but think about it if you're like, oh, they weren't interested. They didn't show up. You know, if you look online, if you Google sales statistics, 80% of, I think 80 to 90%, I don't quote me, but look it up. 80 to 90% of closes happen after the 5th contact. Just think about that. You might be unnecessarily spinning your wheels and making more work for yourself and getting all these new people, and you're just not even following up with the ones that you have. So if you haven't called them at least 5 times, or they haven't told you, go, never talk to me again, right? One or the other, right? We always say until they buy or die. Then you need to be following up, right? Because a lot of times they're just busy. Think about you. You're busy too. How many people have been trying to reach you right now while you're in WFG and you make calls every day and you're blowing people off? Think about it. We all do it. We all do it. People call you and they're like, oh, I just want you have. That's part of being a business professional. It's your job to follow up. It's not their job to follow up with you. This is your business, right? So are you seeing yourself as just a professional? Don't get emotional about it. They're not rejecting you. They're not mad at you. They probably just got busy or they were just tired. Like the majority of the time, they have an actual excuse and that's why they weren't there. So don't get out of your head. Again, it's not personal. Okay? Track the number of butts in seats. This is an obsession of mine, and this should be an obsession of yours too, because this is actually the #1 way to really, really track the growth of your business. More than your production, more than even your recruiting numbers, actually. The agents that are consistently coming to meetings is the #1 most accurate measure of the growth of your business, right? And I've seen it so many times before, people who like put up big numbers and lots of points, and then you look at what's going on, it's like they're a personal producer. That's why they have points. They don't have a business. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, I love money, and I would love to have lots of points and make it, but it's so much more delicious when it's coming from your team, and you're in a team. Like Dan always says, I'm a team-made millionaire, right? You don't want to be a self-made millionaire. You want to be a team-made millionaire. That's so much more fulfilling because you're helping all of these other people get where they want to go too, right? Then one thing that I really love actually from this team, and I got a lot also from the Colorado team, you guys have really great like lineage when it comes to call tracking, and I've been actually copying you guys with measuring calls booked and how many calls you made reached and how many you booked and sort of the tracking point system you guys use, that is amazing because you're tracking your effectiveness on the phone, right? So it's very different to make 50 cold calls than it is to have 50 call points on the tracker, right? So you want to be really diligent about tracking your points, your call points, because you want effective calls. You want calls that are leading to guests and that are leading to appointments. You don't want to just be leaving 50 voicemails. It's a whole different world, right? And then your paperwork. I mean, I don't know how many times Dan had to say it before I finally was like, okay, yeah, I need an assistant. But I cannot tell you, oh my God, do yourself a favor and do it. If you don't have a lot of income right now, you can do it affordably. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I mean, but the amount of time and energy you will be saving yourself by leveraging that out so that your time is spent doing the important stuff that no one else can do, like prospecting and calls, right? You can't leverage that to an assistant, but why do you need to be on hold with Transamerica for an hour? That is such a huge waste of your time, right? So have somebody, you will make so much more money and you just take that leap of faith and leverage out just the annoying, painstaking, like, you're not here to be an assistant, just hire one. You will make so much more free space for the stuff that really matters in your schedule. So I really emphasize that a lot, if you haven't done it yet. Cool. All right, so double-digit recruiting. So this is a focus for me right now. Last year, my numbers weren't as good, but the year before, I think I had like 9 months out of 12 where I was in double digits. And my goal is really to have every single month be a double-digit month, right? So if you really think about it, it's really not that hard, because if you are doing the volume that we talked about and you're getting new directs, you get, even if you just do 330 this month, next month you should be duplicating those 3 people to also be doing 330, and you right there you've got 9 people, right? You're 1 away from 10. It's not rocket science. This is what Swan Wins is so good at, is just duplicating 330 and really embedding that in the culture of the team. And that's what you guys should be focusing on, is when you're fast starting your new agents, really, really impress upon them the 330 challenge. Everyone in our office does 330. That's just the standard. That's like bare minimum. If you don't do 330, you're a loser. Like, you're a nobody, right? I mean, you don't put people down. But the point is that it should just be like commonplace. It should just be obvious. It should just be the standard, right? Because if you're consistently getting 330, you will be, there's no reason you won't be hitting BBC every single month. And truly, when you're doing BBC every month, that's when you really realize how important it is. And then 10 doesn't even really feel like enough. And if you haven't done that yet, I understand that seems hard to believe, but like, because we're in a game of volume. So just to give you an idea here, Joseph and Batsheva, who are my uplines, they said they recruited 700 people before they found me. Okay? So that's not to scare you. That's just to help you manage your expectations. If you've recruited 10 people and you're frustrated, you're like, you need to really manage your expectations. You are like counting you're doing it way too soon, right? You need to really realize that this is a game of volume. You're going to cast a wide net and get the quantity to find the quality. I'm vegan, so I don't really like this analogy, but it's a good analogy, so I'm going to use it anyway. Dan always says, if you want to get like a swordfish, okay, it's this size, right? You could go about it different ways. One, you could cast a net that's this size and say, okay, I'm going to cast this net and I'm going to get the swordfish, right? But odds are you're not really going to catch it. But if you cast a net across the entire ocean, which brings in all the little fish and everything too, right, you're going to get the swordfish with it. It's just inevitable. There's no way to avoid it because you've cast a wide enough net, right? So if you're out looking for the rabbit or the superstar or the stud, that's great, and keep doing that. But you're most likely going to find them in the volume, right? So if you're not at the minimum doing 10, you're just not getting enough volume to find that big fish. It's just that simple, right? So it's great if you've got 3, but now this next month, focus on getting those 3 to do 3, and those 3 to do 3, because that's when you're really getting enough quantity to find that quality. Okay? Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so here's basically that plan. And I got this from the Iretons. I don't know if it was Paul or Nate, somebody said it, but it was a good, it's a good strategy, right? So in month 1, you wanted to go for 10, 10, 30. So it's you and 2 field trainers working on 3, 3, 30. That's it. If you guys have been around, I saw at least half the room's been here for more than 3 years, and the other, I'd say like a third of you guys have been here for a year or more. You guys probably have at least 2 agents on your team that are committed. So if you and those 2 people just get 3, that's not even having captain's list every BPM. That's having captain's list once a week. Right? That's actually even less. It's like 3 weeks out of the whole month doing a captain's list. It's really that simple. Do you guys see how simple it is? We're not talking about like, thousands of calls. It's just 10 confirmed guests, 3 weeks in a row will yield you 3 directs. If you and 2 other people are doing that, you guys are going to be at 10. Right? It's just that simple. It's not, the idea is not for you to go and get 10 wide, although that would be awesome. Do that too. But it doesn't even have to be that hard. Right, so then month 2, now you've got 5 leaders because you've gotten the 10 the last month. So now you're dealing with 5 people who are all doing 3. Right, so it's just you and 4 other people doing 3. And then you'll have more inventory because of that. So then month 3, you can do 25, 25. And Natalie Plant shared with me that this is how you qualify for every contest WFG ever issued. Hawaii, all the trips. It's always a 90, the Tulum one is 90 days, the bigger ones are longer, but if you're using this strategy, when I was doing double digit every month, my production was always reflective of my recruiting. The more recruits I had, the higher my production was. Every month without fail, when I look at my points in recruits, it was always a reflection. So those of you who are going out looking for clients, you're literally missing the whole point, because they come with the recruiting. Right? So if you make this your focus, you'll have the money too. You don't even have to go hunting for it. It will come in your lap. Literally. Cool. Okay. So that leads to Tulum. Who's going to Tulum? That's like 3 people. Where are the rest of you? What, you already decided and you haven't even... Every hand should take raise. Who's going to Tulum? Yes, awesome. You have to make the decision to be there. Then the universe conspires to make it happen. That's how it always works, right? So actually, if you're not an SMD, the personal activity is so bare bones. I mean, it's really, really easy to do it. So you need 20,000 points in 90 days and 5 recruits. So based on the numbers we've been talking about this whole morning, does that sound like ridiculous? No. Like easy? Right? Like that's like a joke compared to if you're really running the business the way you should just be running the business, like business as usual. If you're really in business and you're really prospecting at the volume you should every day, and you're really recruiting at the volume you should every week, and which is leading to the points that you're going to get naturally when you're in the field, 20,000 points? That's nothing. 5 recruits in 90 days? You guys are going to be doing 10 in a month. It's so easy, right? So the reason they make these contests is to help you win. They want you to win. They make it so you can win, right? So I don't know if you want to go to the next page. Have you guys seen this sheet before? Yes. Okay, good. Awesome. This is my favorite sheet in the world. So why are you laughing? You guys use it a lot? Oh, so good! This is my favorite sheet. So a few years ago, I basically arranged the Dropbox for our office, and I was pooling different offices. Probably I got some stuff from Nikki, and that's where it came from. Got stuff from Natalie, and I saw this sheet because I spent hours just like looking through the Dropbox. I was like, ooh, when you first go in Dropbox, it's like Christmas. Right? So I saw the sheet, and I was like, and I've never fallen out of love with this sheet. This sheet is the golden of all sheets. If you guys have not used this sheet, well, I'll tell you what I love about this sheet. So, especially when you're new in the business, everything feels sort of like an impossibility. Like it feels kind of like, you feel like a statistic. You're like, right. Am I going to make it or not? Is God going to bestow His grace of the lottery upon me and I'll find the next Ed Milet? Like, and I am very spiritual, and I really do believe that there is a faith element to winning here. So I personally, I believe it's a 50-50 relationship. I I believe that we have to have the faith unwaveringly, and then God or the universe or whatever it is that you believe in does their part. And then you've got to do the other 50%, which is work your butt off, right? And so when I saw this sheet, I was like, this is my 50%! Oh my God! Because it literally does the math. It's like, if you had to reduce this business into the most physical, tangible terms for yourself possible, to make yourself not a statistic, but just run the statistics of getting results, that's this sheet. So literally it takes the guesswork out of it. And when you're new and you're still learning things and you see, oh, Christopher's making this much and Dan's making this much, it seems like, could I ever do that? But actually, if you just use this sheet month after month, the compound effect of that work over a long period of time will guarantee you their results. It's not a question, it's a certainty. Because this is the math. It's just like literally simple math. So I think my office thinks I'm weird because I'm really obsessed with this sheet. But I use it all the time, and I recommend you use it every month when you're making out your new monthly business plan and you're charting out your new goals, because it does the work for you. So if you go to the next page, that's what I did for Tulum. Okay, so using those algorithms that our genius mastermind here created, right? So we have basically, you can calculate, you guys are so lucky to have them. You guys can calculate your recruiting and your production numbers to the science and the math of the activity that it will require you to guarantee your seat on that plane. Okay? So for building, and this is the baseline minimum, and you'll see that the call volume for this is a joke, so I hope you're hoping to qualify for the elite trip. But I went for the easiest one, just for those of you who don't believe in yourselves, and you see it's so super easy, okay? So for 5 recruits, you basically multiply that by 10 to calculate how many, 2 minutes if you have guests, everybody. So that would be 50 confirmed guests per month that you would need to have to get those 5 recruits, okay? So divided by 8 BPMs per month. Did you guys realize we have 8 BPMs per month?
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
I mean, 8 opportunities to sell the dream and grow your team. So amazing, right? I mean, like literally, let's just appreciate that for a minute. Huh?
Here we have 12 because Dean's team, they do an
Oh
extra
my
one
gosh!
during the week.
Oh!
Yes.
Even better, right? So just appreciate that for a minute. You get to literally show up, and the show goes on, and all of the work is done for you, and you have these charismatic, incredible experienced leaders literally selling your prospect on the power of the magic of the opportunity, and you get to just sit here in training while it's all getting done for you, and you don't have a guest. Crazy. Okay? So, anyway, back to my point. So 8 BPMs per month, so 8 opportunities to sell the dream, right? So that means that you need to have 6 confirmed guests per BPM, which that's not even the 10. We just talked about captain system. You're not even a captain and you're going to Tulum, okay? So 6 confirmed guests per BPM. So times 10 means that you need to make 60 calls per week that are focused on recruiting. Not 60 a day, 60 a week. Remember Merrill Lynch? They're making like 600 a day. You need to make 60 a week, and yours are warm. Perspective, right? So 60 divided by 5 days a week, that means for recruiting, you only need to make 12 calls a day. Raise your hand if you don't think you can make 12 calls a day to find new recruits. Good, see? Even if you're part-time, everyone can make 12 calls a day. That's nothing. That's your lunch break if you have a full-time job, right? Okay, so now the points, which is going to come from the recruits, like we talked about. You're not cold calling for clients, right? So 20,000 points. Let's just go if your average points per app is 2,500. That means that you would need 8 apps per month, or 2 apps per week, right? So now, we have to also take into consideration this wonderful thing we know called human nature, right? Because we're dealing with human people, right? That's our inventory, our raw materials. So we have to consider all of the wonderful things that make people people, including their flakiness, including their excuses, including viable excuses, right? So, and also that some of them are just not going to get closed. Some of them might already have an appropriate financial plan in place. Some of them might be the 10% of the population Dan refers to that reserves the right to remain ignorant. Who knows? But for whatever reason, we're not closing everyone, so we have to account for that, right? So times 1.66 closing ratio means, right, so you're not gonna be closing everyone, means that you need to schedule 13 first KTPs per month. But then you have to also account for the cancellation and the reschedule, right? So if you do the math there, that means that you need to schedule a total of 21 KTPs per month, right? Now divided by 4 weeks per month, that means 5 KTP1s per week, right? So times 10 means you have to make 50 calls per week geared towards production, which then, I don't know how many days a week you guys work. I work 5 days a week. I wish I worked 6, but I do have kids I want to see. So for me it's 5, right? So that means that would be 10 production calls a day. So raise your hand if you don't think you can make 10 calls a day towards production. Cool. So far we have 12 calls a day for recruiting and 10 calls a day for production, and you get to go to Mexico for free and associate with all of the incredible leadership and synergy. Sounds like a pretty fair deal, right? So, and let's think about what that will mean for your family. So now you've done those 20,000 points. If you're even just at an associate contract, you make almost 10 grand. Pretty sweet deal. So you make 10 grand and you get to go to Tulum for free. So do we think that we're in a company that wants us to be broke and suffering and not winning? The company is literally designed for you guys to have success and to win. All that you have to do is just run the system, and it will literally run your business. So that's pretty much all that I've got for you guys today. Anyone have any questions? Or yes?
So, not afraid to connect with people and talk. Dude, always have when I'm around. Where I notice my glitch is, or my fear face comes up, is it's from the same fear of like, oh, I want to talk to you. How do I bring up like, you know, we should stay in touch with that shadows working, like, I mean, we should practice as shadow was included. I can't promise you anything, but I might have an opportunity to give me your name and number and I'll call.
Yeah, and yes, and I think like being direct is good, but also use your intuition. There is some intuitiveness that comes into it because sometimes I use different approaches for different people. But I would say like be direct as possible, because then it's only actually weird when you're not direct. Because when you're not direct, then you're kind of like dancing around it, and you know eventually it's going to come up. And then if they're not interested anyway, you've kind of like wasted your time. So I think that when you're direct from the start, you're looking for people looking for you. It's not going to be everybody. So if you're direct and they have the opportunity to say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not, and then you're like, cool, next. And now I'm going to go for the person who says yes. I'll give you a perfect example. This week, that guy that I told you guys about, who he was giving me a hard time because I prospected his friend's parents that I don't remember.
Yeah.
So he was just like negative and difficult, and he kept kind of fighting me, and I ended up being like, so I was talking to him at one moment, and at the same time I was texting another girl. So I was texting them both at the same time. It was really, really great contrast for me to appreciate. So the girl, on the other hand, she was texting me. I had scheduled her interview for Friday. She said, "Hi, Leah. I'm so sorry, but I can't come for the interview. Can I come next Thursday?" And I was like, "Hi, sweetie. Unfortunately, no. All interviews have to be done within 48 hours, unless an emergency. And in that case, it would only be a day. It wouldn't be pushed off a whole week." I just said it. And she was like, "Oh, okay. I'll make sure to be there tomorrow at 10:30. I don't want to miss out on this opportunity." Right? So I have this guy giving me a hard time, being a pain in my ass, and I have this girl who was literally going to move her life around to meet with me. So why am I going to waste my time begging someone to give him the opportunity when I have the right person that I'm looking for, because I laid the groundwork clear and I set the standard and she's meeting me there? That's the type of person I want to work with. So you don't want to strong arm people, because not everyone, you don't want everyone on your team. Like, I really wouldn't want to work with him. Like, I wouldn't. Now, I'm sure he's a good person and everything, but it's just like, when someone's offering an opportunity, if you're not just grateful on the start, just for that, I mean, like, I don't want to work with ungrateful people.
Right.
You know, so.
And if you're offering them an opportunity, like if they were just going to be an opportunity, I mean, that could be either way. You have a business opportunity, an opportunity in finances, these are, hey, coming to the business side of things, or opportunity in finances, you know, when was the last time someone offered to give you a free strategy?
What I usually say is, do you keep your business options open? strategy, because I think once you have a lot more reps and you become natural, you don't even get these objections because you're in your head right now.
Okay.
But when I wasn't where I'm at naturally, what I did, I got this actually from an S&D in the Valley. She said, I always act like I'm in a rush even if I'm not, right? So when you're in an interaction, it should be 2 minutes or less. So you should develop the habit of walking fast, talking fast, seeming urgent, even if you have nothing on your calendar, because that way when they start trying to ask you another question, like, you know, that's a great question, I want to get back to you, but I really got to go to this next appointment, so let me just get your information, I'll give you a call, or I'll have someone from my office give you a call, and then leave. Just get the number. You don't want to do a presentation on the street, because that way, because then they respect your urgency, and they're like, oh, well, I can either tell her no, and I won't have a shot, or I'll just give her my number and I'll find out more later. Okay, I'm going to give her my number.
Oh, okay.
And then, so your goal is just get the number, and just make that excuse. I don't have time to talk about it right now. But you have to also like be urgent. You can't be like strolling like down the street and like, oh, I have a really important appointment. Like you have to actually like carry yourself with urgency. And what's cool is you'll notice that when you're walking fast and you're talking fast, you do actually have that urgency, and people do respond more to you because you seem important and like you're doing something important, right? So we are, but I'm just saying, even if you had an empty schedule that day, right? Yeah.
Leah, could you mind just letting us hear how you prospect? So my name is Tracy. I'm in the mall. I'm at the bakery store behind you, and we start to chat.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. So your bakery store, I was like,
Because that happened to me last night.
Yeah.
And I totally took too long to get the number.
So usually I lead with a compliment because I find like people love to be complimented, and who else is complimenting them, right? So you're automatically their friend now. So you're like, oh my gosh, I love your hair. Do you use anything special in it? Because I got curls too, and they're always so complicated.
Yeah, I actually spent a fortune on my hair.
Really? Oh my gosh.
More money than on my face.
Well, it's really working for you because you look so well put together and you just look so presentable and professional. Actually, this might seem kind of random, but do you keep your options, your business options open? Because I have a business and my company is growing and expanding. We're looking for good quality people, and I don't know much about you. I don't know if you'd be a good fit, but you definitely look the part. So if you're open, I would love to get your information and reach back out to you tomorrow, the day after, and tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
fast
and
yes or no. Yeah.
Yeah, and also just like I think leading them with a genuine compliment, because you do really have beautiful hair.
Yeah.
You know, so everyone has something to compliment. We all have a God's given gift, so find it. Find what you can genuinely compliment in people, and that automatically establishes a rapport and connection. And then ask if they keep their options open, and get the number and get out. Don't start inviting them to BPM. Don't do a presentation on one foot. You know, that's why in the BFS there's step 1 and step 2. They're separate steps. This is something my team does sometimes. They go prospecting. What are you doing tomorrow at Wednesday at 7? It's like the person's like, dude, I just met you. It's like I actually went to a networking meeting, and the guy called. He was trading similarly on some. She's like, don't be a business booty call. Right? And that's sorry, but that's the idea. It's like, I just met you. Imagine if you're courting somebody, are you going to just start, like, you know, asking them on the date right on that spot, and let's go to this restaurant, and I already made the reservation? They'll be like, who are you? Whoa, easy, dude. I just met you, right? So you want to think about that here, too. Don't start going into the presentation and inviting them. That's why step 2 is the approach and contact. That's a separate step. Right? So your only goal when you're talking to people is get the phone number and then get out as fast as you can. Literally get out as fast as you can. Because otherwise it's going to become a scenario of disaster. No matter how good you are, how well you know how to answer the questions, you might have all the scripts down. Even if you've been a pro for 10 years, you don't want to get into it on the spot. Because you're just automatically, now they're assessing you and you're defending yourself, and it's just not good. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. I love you guys. Thank you for having me, and I wish you all so much success, and you're with the best office with the best leadership. I hope you guys know how lucky you are, and go and take advantage of it and win for your families. Woo!
plant-based shop in the conference room.
Thank you in my office. What's your shirt like, guys?
You want to do that?
Yes.
Alright, Steve. Yeah, push him here. That's it.
Morning. Good.
Where are we off to, my friend?
In my office. Yeah, at least we have light down there.
One more table.
It is up there in the front. Sofa.
In the front?
Oh, sorry, Hope. You got hit by a train.
What were we saying?
West Malibu.
And then
Go ahead.
See,
Go ahead.
and then he acts like he's doing me a favor. All right, you see what I'm saying?
Are you done?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Are you done?
You'll be late next. I'm just saying.
Remember our conversation, okay? All right, now you can walk that way.
Okay.
Now,
I'm just
you
saying.
can go that way now.